Centuries ago, the world was thrown into chaos with the sudden arrival of terrifying dungeons and monsters. But to fight back, humanity awakens special abilities known as skills. And here we see a hand tightly gripping the collar of a shirt, with a ton of tension in the air. Our gray-haired protagonist is trying to convince an old man about a technique called tuning. Full of hope, the man hands his research over to the professor, asking for a simple recommendation. With zero patience, the old guy snatches the papers with a nasty look on his face. To make matters worse, the old geezer summons a blue destruction magic out of nowhere. In shock, our poor MC can barely believe what he's seeing. Shoving it in his face, the professor says that reading the work of some low-class trash has absolutely no value. After all, in this world, the only thing that measures a mage's true ability is their academic record. So, those who graduate from the best schools live like the true elite of society. On the other hand, the talentless end up in misery with no chance of turning things around. Faced with this reality, the young man realizes the system is just too cruel. Laying into him, the old man calls the idea of tuning absurd, since a skill's power doesn't change no matter who uses it. To really humiliate him, the professor rips the research in half, accusing him of trying to steal funds with occultist garbage. Furious, the arrogant old man throws the shredded research into the air and tells the guy to stop being ridiculous. Feeling guilty and kneeling on the floor, the man listens as the professor mocks him, saying it'd be cuter if he just begged for money. Soon after, the scene shifts to a dark, freezing alley with snow falling. Shivering from the cold, our protagonist tries to curl up to find some warmth. Slumped next to a dumpster, he curses in frustration at the way he was treated. The young man wonders why nobody understands that tuning would give talentless mages a chance to shine. Suddenly, a malicious voice echoes in the alley, calling him a punching bag. Just then, 3 bullies approach, surrounding the boy without a shred of mercy. After taking a brutal hit, our guy goes flying straight to the ground. Trying to act all nice, one of the goons asks the boss if it's really okay to beat the guy up like this. Right away, the blonde leader replies that a beggar in rags definitely has no class. Without wasting a second, a heavy boot comes crashing down towards him. With the boot grinding the man's face into the asphalt, the boss claims that no one's gonna give a damn if he bites it right there. Along with the boss, the goon flashes a sadistic smile, confirming his cowardice. Completely beaten up, the man realizes things have gotten really ugly. In a desperate attempt, he launches a tiny ball of magic. In a mocking tone, the bully finds it hilarious that this piece of trash has the nerve to fight back. The thugs then declare that a low-class nobody could never challenge students from the prestigious Tenjo University. In a panic, our MC watches his puny magic fizzle out and loses all hope. To make it worse, the goon taunts him, saying it would be a piece of cake to win if he just used that so-called tuning of his. Facing the situation, the guy understands that an academic record is absolute, and trash like him will never beat the elite. With no other choice, he turns his back and makes a desperate run for it to save his own skin. In the middle of the alley, the man screams for help, hoping someone will show up. Lying in the middle of a crowd, he begs the pedestrians to call the cops immediately. Cruelly, a mother points at him and tells her son to study hard so he doesn't end up like that low-class trash. Totally shocked by the people's coldness, he hears the blonde leader yell at him not to run away. From behind, the coward attacks with a powerful spell without a second thought. Because of the impact, our boy is brutally thrown against a brick wall. Like a sack of potatoes, his body slumps to the ground motionless. Afraid they might have actually done him in, the bullies bolt like scared chickens. Lying on the cold asphalt, the young man's life begins to slowly slip away with the blood he's lost. About to kick the bucket, he wonders if not being born with talent or a silver spoon is really such a terrible crime. And he questions if being from the lowest class justifies being treated like garbage. On the ground, he sees people walking right by as if he were invisible. Barely breathing, his greatest sadness is remembering that his life's work became nothing but a punchline. Accepting his end, the kid laments going out in such a rotten place. Mysteriously, he wakes up leaning against a tree under a bright sun, without a scratch on him. And he looks down to see he's wearing a uniform that isn't his. Startled, the boy pats himself down and realizes he's alive and kicking. As he looks around, he instantly recognizes the place as the famous Tokinata Academy. He's absolutely certain this is the school he attended many years ago. But there's a bizarre detail: that main building had been demolished and rebuilt over 10 years ago. Wide-eyed, it finally hits him that he has somehow gone back in time. Before he can completely freak out, a female voice cries out, begging for someone to stop. Right after, a male voice tells her to shut up, catching our time traveler's attention. At the scene of the commotion, we see a purple-haired girl cornered by 3 preppy bullies. Holding a student ID card, the ringleader of these jerks taunts the defenseless girl. With pure malice, the coward warns her that without her ID, she won't even be able to buy crumbs to eat. Violently, he pulls the girl's hair and threatens to give the card back only after she pays what she owes. Crying out in pain, the poor girl lets out a scream of despair while the other goons laugh. Full of arrogance, the villain shouts that D-class trash doesn't have human rights. Out of the absolute blue, a shot of blue energy explodes right in the middle of the bully's mug. Like a ragdoll, the guy goes flying and hits the ground, completely knocked out. Freaking out at the scene, the goons start yelling their boss's name, totally confused. Scared stiff, they look around trying to figure out which psycho fired that magic bullet. Far away under a tree, we see our protagonist with his finger glowing after taking the shot. When they find the shooter, the nobodies are in shock, realizing the attack came from over 50 meters away. Breaking out in a cold sweat, they insist it's impossible, since the maximum range for that spell is 30 meters, and figure he must have used a secret skill. Can be our MC walks toward them, showing he still has the status of D-class trash. For the grand finale, he explains that he sacrificed attack power in his tuning technique, focusing purely on range to turn the world's worst spell into an infallible sniper shot. Shocked on the ground, the purple-haired girl recognizes our MC and whispers his name. Looking at his own hand, the boy confirms that his knowledge and skills are exactly the same. With a smirk, he understands that with this, he can finally change things. In his past life, the lack of a strong academic record made everyone ignore his research. Certain that time has turned back, our guy clenches his fist, seeing the perfect opportunity in his hands. Focused on his mission, he promises to reach the top of the academy and change his miserable life. Full of swagger, the kid walks straight toward the jerks. Furious at his audacity, the leader of the bullies calls the boy a scumbag. Laughing, the preppy kid says that up close, he's just a piece of trash from the school's worst class. To make it worse, the villain makes fun of him, calling our MC the king of trash, for only knowing how to use a weak spell. Full of himself, the coward warns that if he reports the attack to the principal, the boy will be expelled on the spot. Without showing a hint of fear, our boy agrees that expulsion is possible. But right after, he challenges his rival, asking if he really wants to be famous as the preppy kid who got his butt kicked by a loser. Pissed off, the jerk clicks his tongue, seething with rage at the taunt. Determined to make the kid regret this for the rest of his life, the phony blonde orders his goons to destroy the boy. To everyone's surprise, the two goons take off running, leaving their boss high and dry. In an instant, the scene cuts, and we see our MC in a classroom full of students. Screaming like a maniac, the professor in glasses calls the entire class the scum of society. In front of the blackboard, the nerve of this guy tells them they have no future, and should be grateful to even be in his class. Leaning on his hand, our boy listens to that ridiculous speech with a look of absolute boredom. Staring out the window, he recalls that Tokinata Academy divides students from Class A to D based on their grades. Currently enrolled in Class D, the young man knows he's at the bottom of the barrel, this being the infamous worst class in the entire school. In practice, this room just serves as an example to show the elite what they should never become. Suddenly, the professor focuses on our guy and gets ticked off. Annoyed by the student's lack of attention, the teacher decides he's going to humiliate the boy in front of everyone. With a sadistic smile, the professor tells our hero to solve question number 5 on the board. The kid gets up from his chair and says, "Wes, sir." Without blinking, faced with a giant equation on the board, the young man calmly analyzes the problem. Believing he set a trap, the teacher knows this is an old question from Tenjo University and that some low-class trash would never get it right. Convinced he's won, the arrogant teacher considers this a punishment for disrespecting the elite. Without mercy, he asks what's wrong and mocks the boy for taking so long. Ignoring the pressure, our guy simply blurts out that the answer is 689. Instantly, the professor panics, seeing that the kid hit the nail on the head. Turning the tables, the boy demands that the teacher show the solution to help with his future studies. With a sharp gaze, he reveals that the trick behind the problem is a fact known to everyone in the room. After all, the so-called Tenjo University only releases the answers to old exams, never the step-by-step solutions. With chalk in hand, the young man asks point blank if there's a problem with the result. Sweating bullets, the guy realizes he got totally schooled and that this piece of trash just made a fool out of him. Filled with hatred, the professor vows to get revenge on the boy right then and there. A short time later, the class moves outside the school under a blue sky. On an open court, the entire class lines up, ready for practical training. Bringing a special guest, the vengeful professor shows up with that same bully from earlier in the day. For combat practice, the professor announces that a student from a higher class has kindly agreed to help. Overjoyed, the preppy kid tells everyone not to worry about him during the duel. With that smug look, the rival says that as someone destined for the top, he feels grateful to guide the weaker students. Right after, the professor fixes his snake-like gaze on our hero. Full of malice, the teacher says that since he's the lowest ranking student in the class, the boy needs some strict instruction. The kid just says, "Yes, sir." Once again, up close the professor reinforces that the fight is just a routine instructional match. But with a sinister smile, he tells his lackey not to end the fight too quickly. Already getting the message, the villain gives a devilish grin, agreeing with the plan. In the professor's mind, this is the end of the line for the insolent kid who dared to challenge his authority. After all, he ordered him to break a few of the boy's bones on purpose to teach him a lesson in obedience. Thrilled by his own wickedness, the teacher imagines the trash going straight from the hospital to the school's expulsion list. Scared of the danger, the other students in the class whisper that the guy is completely screwed. In the middle of the crowd, the purple-haired girl is worried sick about her classmate's fate. Oblivious to all this, our guy gives a polite bow in the middle of the court. He says, "I'm looking forward to our training," staring down the giant. Without wasting time, the professor raises his hand and yells for the match to begin. Right off the bat, the rival invokes a heavy spell, covering himself in a level 1 stone armor. All armored up, the preppy kid scoffs, saying that a piece of trash who only uses magic bullets needs to be put in his place. Cold as ice, our hero agrees with the statement without showing any reaction. Like a bull, the bully warns that his stone armor could never be broken by such a pathetic spell. Promptly, the boy raises his hand and retorts, "Don't be so sure." A bright blue aura starts swirling around the young man, carrying a sinister power. Blinded by rage, the rival shouts for him to die while preparing a stone punch straight for his head. In this universe, the general rule is that a skill's performance is the same regardless of who uses the magic. A shot's power, range, and speed are all predetermined by the system itself. That's why the type and amount of power someone is born with dictates who's strong and who's a weakling. Focused on the target, the kid mentally agrees that a normal magic shot would never even scratch that defense. The villain's giant stone fist tears through the air, coming within inches of our protagonist's face. But at the last second, our boy activates his tuning, zeroing out the range and speed to focus 100% on pure brute force. With the memory of his unjust end fresh in his mind, he remembers that talent and a silver spoon controlled everything in his past life. But not anymore, and with a furious roar, the boy fires an absurdly destructive cannon of blue energy. Caught by surprise, the rival spits up blood, feeling the incredible impact in his stomach. Completely shattered, the stone armor turns to dust as the guy's body goes flying. With smoke rising from his finger, our MC declares that he's going to shatter all the common sense in this world. Back in the classroom, the atmosphere is tense, with all the students staring at him. Hand on his chin, the boy realizes he's drawn way too much attention after humiliating the bully from the upper class. But focused on his goal, he decides he can't worry about appearances if he wants to reach the top in his final year of the academy. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl shows up holding a snack and asks if she can eat with him. In the cafeteria, the kid notices the brutal difference, as the D-class meal looks more like a bowl of dog food. Surrounded by the elite, the upper-class group mocks the low-class food, saying they don't even get enough allowance to eat like people. Without a shred of pity, one of the rich kids tells the poor kids to sit on the floor and eat like animals. Finding the humiliation hilarious, the snob tells the D-class to act like trash in front of the elite. Out of nowhere, a shot of blue energy hits right between the jerk's legs, making him scream in pain. On the floor, the coward squirms while everyone around him is shocked by the surprise attack. From a distance, our boy blows on his finger, happy as can be that his sniper skill hasn't gotten rusty at all. Full of confidence, he reaffirms that even normal skills can be infinite, and with tuning, he will reach the top of the academy. Worried, the purple-haired girl warns him that if they find out he attacked a student with a skill, it's going to be really bad. With a carefree smile, the boy says that if she doesn't open her mouth, no one will suspect someone with the worst spell of all. Changing the subject, he invites the girl to eat since the loudmouths are gone. Sitting under a tree, far from the chaos, the mood becomes much calmer. Blushing, the girl thanks him for his help the day before. Casually eating his snack, he tells her not to worry, as he just did what he felt like doing. A bit suspicious, the kid asks if that's why she came to talk to him, since hanging out with him only brings trouble. Wringing her hands, she says she hadn't thanked him properly and needed to do so. Finding it funny, he compliments the girl's manners while taking a bite of his bread. In his mind, he remembers that they never spoke back in the academy, but he met her after graduating. That's because during his research on tuning, he investigated many different skills. In the past, she was one of the rare skill owners who helped with his studies. Back in the present, the boy breaks the silence and asks about the partnered practical exam next week. Caught off guard, the purple-haired girl confirms the information, not understanding where he's going with this. Straight to the point, he invites her to be his partner, leaving the poor girl in shock. Confused, the girl knows that skills don't awaken later in life and that he must already have his. Not understanding the invitation, she asks the reason for such a sudden choice. Looking her in the eyes, he says it loud and clear, because she has the evil eye of stasis. Her eyes widening, she's shocked, wanting to know how he discovered that secret. Walking with his hands in his pockets, the kid comments that the evil eye series is very rare, and he never thought someone from D class would have one. Approaching her, the boy extends his hand in a gesture of partnership. With a confident smile, he says that having her around would be very reassuring. But the girl pulls back sadly, admitting she has the rare skill but considers herself a failure for only having 2 skills in total. Explaining the system, the boy says that the number of skills doesn't change with training, and that's what defines a mage's evaluation. The average person has about 4 skills, which puts her well below the standard. Trying to cheer her up, the kid reveals that he only has 1 skill, and to make matters worse, it's magic bullet. In a confessional tone, the girl admits she hid her evil eye for fear of creating high expectations. Clutching her skirt, she says that no matter how rare the skill is, having only 2 makes her useless. Terrified, she admits she didn't want others to see her as trash even with a special gift. Hugging her knees, she says she's scared of believing in herself, giving it her all, and in the end, getting slapped by reality. In a serious tone, the boy reveals that his plan is to move up to Class B in the next exam. Extending his hand again, he asks if she's up for joining him on this journey. Looking deep into her eyes, he warns her that the biggest obstacle in the exam will be the clusters. Not really understanding, the girl gets an explanation that D class doesn't get into these groups, so she wouldn't know. With his hands in his pockets, he explains that clusters are groups of students who team up to dominate the top scores. In the written exams, they set up a mass cheating scheme so everyone does well. As for the practical exams, they rig the fight results so everyone gets a good score. The girl asks if that isn't against the academy's rules. In a dark tone, the boy says that the leader of the clusters must have bribed the teachers to look the other way. With the situation clear, he states that most of the upper-class students are part of this dirty scheme. Nervous, the girl remembers that the exam is in pairs, and that the clusters will attack in mobs to crush anyone who isn't an ally. Raising a finger with a sly smile, the boy says he already has a plan to deal with that. The scene cuts, and we see that preppy kid from the beginning running desperately through the school courtyard. Sweating bullets, he calls for someone named Neo, begging for help. Out of nowhere, a brutal punch lands on the jerk's face with so much force that blood splatters everywhere. On the ground, the coward screams in pain as a shadow approaches him. Annoyed, the red-haired guy says he would never waste his time dealing with D-class trash. Trembling with fear, the preppy kid stammers out an apology. Turning his back, the big guy warns the failure not to tell him what he should or shouldn't do. But under his breath, he whispers our protagonist's name, showing that the kid's reputation is already making the rounds. With a sinister smile, the red-haired guy thinks that, if the boy keeps pushing his luck, he'll have to take action. After all, he is Jin Neo, the number 4 ranked first year in Class A and the king of the academy. Sometime later, all the students gather in a giant hall that looks like a gym. Up front, a hooded teacher announces the start of the practical training. Our dynamic duo gets ready as the voice on the loudspeaker announces that they will clear the dungeon with their formed partnerships. Out of nowhere, a giant blue energy portal opens up, showing that the academy has its own dungeon for tests. The teacher explains that points go to the student who deals the final blow to the monster during the hunt. In addition, the pair's final grade will be the sum of both members' points. With the atmosphere tense, the students gulp, waiting for the signal. Raising her hand, the teacher shouts and finally declares the start of the practical exam. In the first second of the test, everyone takes off running like crazy toward the glowing portal. Running after the crowd, the purple-haired girl realizes they'll be left behind if they don't pick up the pace. But right in front of her, she runs into a magical barrier and lets out a cry of pain. To full of swagger, an upper-class student tells the D-class trash not to get in the way. With everything under control, the elite class students begin to cross the portal with complete ease. Forming a barrier at the entrance, the preppy kids prevent anyone of a lower level from passing. Our heroic duo watches the cowardly act from a distance, seeing that the game has already started dirty. With his hand on his chin, our protagonist figures it all out and deduces they've arranged a password so only allies can pass through the barrier. Completely shocked, a kid in glasses starts to panic because anyone who isn't from the same class is being blocked. Just then, a crowd of excluded students starts to pile up in front of the portal, not knowing what to do. Scared, the girl nervously wrings her hands, stating that at this rate, they won't stand a chance. With a confident smile, the boy tells her to relax, that she doesn't need to worry about that right now. Playing the evil genius, he suggests letting the desperate mob go ahead and get themselves wiped out first. With a calculated look, he celebrates that the special elite class isn't participating in this exam. And he completes his thought by stating that if King Neo isn't in the game, he can handle the clusters very easily. After a little while, the boy notices the area has cleared out and announces that now is their time to enter. Without wasting a moment, the duo advances toward the blue portal still glowing in the background. Once inside the dungeon, they find themselves in a dense forest, and the boy comments that it seems like everyone has already gone deeper inside. Determined not to be left behind, the two begin to walk through the dark and mysterious environment. Seeing the closed-in scenery, a sense of danger hangs in the air as they venture deeper among the trees. Focused on the plan, the boy tells them to stick to their strategy, and she agrees with a nod. Immediately, the girl activates her level 2 radar, creating a giant purple energy dome around her body. But he approaches and touches her back, shouting, "Tuning." To alter her magic, reducing the radar's precision and duration to the bare minimum, the boy focuses on just one detail. With the adjustment activated, he invests all the energy into expanding the detection radius to an absurd limit. Shocked by the result, the girl realizes the skill's range has become much larger than normal and can hardly believe her eyes. Her shock is real because in this world, a spell's performance only changes when the skill levels up through extensive training. Since this is what every mage learns from childhood, our hero's abrupt alteration breaks all the rules. Swallowing hard, she understands that his tuning is something otherworldly, changing the very essence of magic while keeping the level the same. In her mind, the idea of freely adjusting a skill's power opens doors no one ever imagined. Breaking into a cold sweat, the girl warns that if the secret of tuning is discovered, the entire world will be turned upside down. Agreeing, the boy points to the sky and states that's exactly why common sense is about to be destroyed. With a fire in his eyes, he activates his own tuning, causing a powerful aura to envelop his body. Completely zeroing out the attack power, he focuses 100% on something else, cutting the bullet's speed as well. Directing all resources to range, he creates a magic bullet in the form of a mid-air suspension. Immediately, small spheres of blue light begin to pop up, floating stationary in front of him. Without hesitation, the kid uses these spheres as steps, planting his feet firmly on them to climb. With great agility, he leaps from one to another, rapidly gaining height before his partner's shocked eyes. From below, the girl exclaims in amazement that using an offensive spell as a foothold in mid-air is an incredible thing to see. Taking advantage of his high position, he has a perfect view of the entire forest, looking like a true elite sniper. But to complete the combo, the girl instantly activates her evil eye of stasis, causing a golden gear to shine in her eye. The girl's power instantly locks the boy's movement in the air, leaving him frozen like a statue. As the name suggests, the eye skill is used to freeze anything the user is looking at. Unable to stop actual living creatures, she used the trick to fix only the kid's shoes in space. Thanks to this, he is completely suspended in the sky, using his frozen shoes as a support to shoot from. Floating smoothly, the boy explains that he can't aim properly if he has to focus on creating his own footholds, which is why her eye is essential. So, he begins his sniper adjustments, cutting power to focus solely on range and speed. Through the radar, the girl relays the exact coordinates of the targets, shouting out distances and directions of the monsters. With a lethal smile, our sniper praises his partner's work, which is perfect. In the blink of an eye, he transforms the normal magic bullet into the famous elite sniper version. Several shots tear through the sky at an absurd speed, piercing stone monsters and giant bats all at once. Focused on the slaughter, he counts the first 3 kills with a sinister smile on his face. Descending quietly, he asks his partner if they should move to a new hunting spot, and she agrees on the spot. But out of nowhere, 4 shadows leap from the bushes, surrounding the two in a treacherous ambush. Victims of their own ignorance, the cluster's goons surround the D-class students, thinking they found easy prey. At the same time, the 4 nobodies unleash stone cannons, purple lightning, black ropes, and level 2 wind blades at the duo. Caught by surprise, the girl shouts for him to be careful as she tries to dodge the combined attack. The leader of the cowardly pack laughs loudly, boasting that he already knew the boy would try to dodge that way. Desperate, the girl screams her partner's name, seeing a giant rock flying straight at his face. Cold as ice, the kid doesn't even blink and watches the boulder fly past, tearing through the air beside him. Filled with hatred, the bully shouts for the kid to die as he launches the attack in his direction. But the giant rock crashes to the ground, kicking up dust but missing the target. With a bored expression, he informs the guy that his attack fell short by exactly 3 centimeters. Startled and sweating, the coward curses the boy, not understanding how he knew the exact limit of his spell. Without beating around the bush, the kid explains that memorizing your own attacks is easy, but nobody knows the specs of other people's spells. In denial, the villain tries to convince himself it was just beginner's luck. Swallowing hard, the rival realizes he's dealing with a madman who fights while monitoring the range of tens of thousands of different skills in his head. Believing it's impossible, he swears to himself that no monster like that could exist in this world. Done with the games, our hero calls them out, saying their group is hunting other pairs just to eliminate the competition. With his hand in his pocket, he warns that he didn't want to actively hunt other students, but since they came looking for trouble, that changes things. In a split second, his finger glows, and he activates tuning for direct combat. Desperate, the villain tries to summon his level 1 stone armor to protect himself from what's coming. But our protagonist whispers, "Too slow," as he cuts through the air with a quick shot that pierces the defense before it can fully form. Several blue shots hit the cowards dead on, making the attackers scream in pain and go flying. Lying on the grass, the 4 goons are knocked out cold as our MC calmly walks through the battlefield, confessing he split the bullet into 4 shots before firing. Without losing his cool, he tells his partner they still have an exam to finish and can't waste time. With the no bodies on the ground, he tells the losers to protect themselves from the monsters from now on. Bloody and pissed off, the leader lifts his head, asking what the heck exam he's talking about. With a maniacal laugh, the villain throws it in his face that their exam ended a long time ago. Explaining the cluster's plan, he reveals that the elite students teamed up and stole all the monsters from the dungeon, monopolizing the hunting area. Cool as ever, our hero listens to the explanation that the upperclassmen's plan is to take all the points and then divide them only among their allies. Laughing loudly, the jerk concludes that any points the D class could have earned no longer exist in this dungeon. Shocked, the girl clutches her dress, realizing their situation is worse than she imagined. Full of hope, she confesses with teary eyes that for a second, she thought that maybe with her partner's help, she could change her life. But the villain's cruelty shatters the mood when he screams that it's impossible for low-class trash to change their own reality. Seething with anger, the coward calls the boy an idiot, telling him he's dreaming way too big. Out of the absolute blue, a blue shot embeds itself right in the middle of the jerk leader's forehead, sending blood flying. With his hand raised and fingertip glowing, the kid tells his partner not to worry about a thing. With the utmost calm, he swears that up to this exact moment, everything is going exactly according to his calculations. Still scared, the girl asks if he can really figure a way out of this impossible situation. Straight to the point, he asks if she knows the biggest weakness of the cluster system. Walking to the edge of a cliff, the boy explains that putting a bunch of students to work together looks great on paper. But with a sinister smile, he warns that if a single premise of that plan breaks, the whole thing falls apart very quickly. Down below, a battalion of elite students is gathered, surrounded by hundreds of monsters in a true monopolized massacre. Looking at the army, the girl warns that their defense is completely sealed, and there's no way to get close without being attacked. Smiling confidently, our MC says that's not true at all. Pointing his glowing finger to the sky, he announces that the move to crush the cluster's strategy is this right here. In the blink of an eye, a colossal blue beam shoots upward, tearing through the dungeon's darkness. But it wasn't just any shot high up, the beam splits into hundreds of smaller shots that rain down right in the middle of the gathered monsters. The bombardment catches the elite by surprise, killing a ton of creatures instantly and stealing their points. Desperate, one of the students shouts, asking where that insane attack came from, while another points to the top of the hill. Completely shocked, the elite kids don't understand how a sniper shot can come from so far away and hit so many targets at once. Without missing a beat, our sniper reveals that the more he extends the range through tuning, the more the bullet's power and speed drop. But with a winner's smile, he concludes that it's more than enough to finish off the monsters that the preppy kids themselves have already left on the brink of death. Seeing their points being stolen right in front of them, the platoon leader yells for everyone to go stop the kid immediately. But an ally interrupts, telling them to kill the monsters quickly before he steals more of their points. Desperation hits hard, and the students start fighting among themselves, launching spells at each other to steal the kills. In total chaos, the leader begs them to stop fighting and stay focused on the main target. The plan backfired, and the alliance crumbles into a show of betrayal, with everyone fighting to secure their own grade. Without breaking a sweat, our hero explains that the cluster only exists to guarantee high scores for its members together. The trick is that this relationship only works if there's a big reward to share among everyone after the battle. Aware of their greed, he states that if the situation turns and points become scarce, the friendship ends on the spot. Exactly as he predicted, the group turns off in a civil war to protect their own share of the points. Shocked, the girl realizes he manipulated that entire battalion of elite students without the slightest effort, and from a distance. For the first time, she sees the genius of someone from D class and is frightened by her partner's coldness. But before the dust settles, one of the students down below takes a brutal hit and is thrown to the ground, blood spraying everywhere. Frozen, the other students look back, asking what the heck just happened. Panic spreads their faces as a giant shadow emerges from the dust. With glowing red eyes and claws out, a colossal mutant bear lets out a deafening roar, showing that the real threat has just arrived on the battlefield. Desperate at the scene, the students flee in fear, and the girl trembles, screaming at the sight of the giant monster. Biting his lip, our MC clicks his tongue, annoyed that the creature showed up right now. Observing from above, he notes that this thing's presence is completely different from the normal dungeon monsters. With absolute certainty, he declares that the bear is an irregular. In the blink of an eye, a red warning appears in the air, confirming that an irregular monster has been spotted in the dungeon. Over the loudspeakers, the professor announces the danger and orders all students to flee immediately to avoid confrontation. Frightened, his partner points, trembling, and asks him if that's really the rare creature. Without losing focus, the kid explains that irregulars are monsters that have undergone a random mutation, gaining abnormal strength. From experience, he concludes that this bear was definitely not placed there by the teachers and survived by luck until it grew this big. Worried, he warns that the monster's level is absurdly higher than what the school prepared for this rookie exam. Paralyzed with fear, the girl calls out to her partner, wanting to know what they're going to do now. Cold as ice, he confesses he has no intention of playing the hero. In a serious tone, he tells his partner to hide and stay quiet until the exam is over. Heading down the slope alone, he justifies that the creature shouldn't even be there, and definitely won't give any points in the final ranking. But as he jumps down, he admits that if he doesn't do something, that battle will become a very ugly bloodbath, and decides to put an end to it. Running down the hill, he says he doesn't want to drag the girl into this danger and will fight alone. Caught by surprise, his partner reaches out her hand, trying to stop the boy from facing the giant bear. Far below on the ground, the elite students scream in desperation, telling everyone to run for their lives. In a flash, the group of preppy kids takes off, fleeing from the beast that's chasing them frantically. Letting out a deafening roar, the irregular bear leaps forward to devour the fleeing cowards. With no chance to run, one of the students trips and comes face to face with the monster, screaming for help. In a millisecond, our MC yells, "Tuning," and summons his magic in front of the scared boy. Focusing 100% on defense, the young man completely cuts his magic's range and speed, pouring all its power into a single point. Right in front of the victim, the kid molds the magic in the air, using the extra resources to alter the shot's form. No longer a bullet, the energy becomes a gigantic blue shield that absorbs the full impact of the bear's brutal bite. Saved at the last second, the student on the ground is in shock, unable to understand how the D-class trash blocked that immense monster. Scared to death, he and the other jerks are stunned by the epic scene that just unfolded before them. Holding the magical barrier, the blue-haired kid feels his entire arm tingle and understands the weight of the attack was real. With a smile of approval, he mentally confesses that, as expected, the irregular strength is on a completely different level from normal creatures. As our hero focuses all his defense on one point, the giant bear raises its claw, glowing purple, ready to tear the kid in half. Sliding the shield through the air like a skateboarder, the boy knocks the monster's claw aside, dodging the fatal blow. Impressed, the kid runs from the bear and compliments the beast's speed, finding it crazy for something that size. In the middle of his run, he pivots on his heels and yells, "Tuning," to activate another combat mode. Switching the configuration to full penetration, he fires a shot that tears through the air straight at the bear's face. The bullet hits the irregular's hide with full force but barely scratches the tough fur, like hitting a concrete wall. With fire in its eyes, the giant bear lets out a sinister growl, feeling nothing. Pissed off, the boy clicks his tongue and realizes that even with tuning maxed out, a level 1 magic bullet doesn't have enough firepower. Blinded by fury, the irregular leaps on top of the kid in a brutal attack, destroying everything around with a monstrous swipe. On his knees, our hero raises his head and concludes that if even a point-blank shot had no effect, things are looking bad. Bleeding from his forehead, he gives a smirk, confessing that this fight is going to be a real headache. Doing a backflip, he announces that the next move is a bit risky, but he doesn't have much choice against the beast. With his hand outstretched and glowing blue, he aims right for the center of the bear's face as it runs toward him. Laughing nervously, he asks the wind if he can at least cause some damage there. In a split second, a precise shot explodes right in the bear's left eye, sending blood gushing. Driven mad with pain, the irregular roars at the sky, shaking its head with one eye gone, blinded on one side. Doing a stylish flip, the boy lands on one knee and celebrates that the attack seems to have worked, but not as much as he'd hoped. Overcome, the monster roars furiously as it runs frantically, smashing the ground with its giant paws. Running to avoid being crushed, the kid realizes the bear has gone into berserk mode, fueled by pure hatred. Breathing heavily and spitting blood, the boy slips on the slope, sweating from exhaustion. Seething with anger, he curses, realizing he messed up by getting drained so quickly at the start of the fight. Looking back, he sees the mountain of muscle standing there with red eyes and knows there's no time to switch to shield mode. With no way out, he crosses his arms and braces for the hit, praying it won't be a fatal blow. From the top of the hill, a purple glow cuts through the darkness as a female voice shouts, activating the evil eye of stasis. The bear freezes mid-air, unable to move an inch, leaving our boy confused, not knowing what just happened. In a burst of power, the purple-haired girl jumps in front of her partner with her arms wide open. Running toward him, she yells the kid's name, and the two stand face to face on the battlefield. Eyed, the boy notices the golden gear glowing on her face and understands her brilliant tactic. Smoothing her skirt, the girl says with all the courage in the world that she's going to fight alongside him from now on. With a little laugh, the kid points out that this fight won't earn them any points in the exam, just a headache. With a weak smile, she agrees but swears she can't run anymore and let him do all the work alone again. Swallowing hard, the girl suggests they hold off the beast for as long as they can until the teachers arrive. Walking slowly toward the paralyzed beast, the kid asks to correct one thing in her plan. Snapping his fingers, he points at the bear and says in the most badass way possible that he never gets into a fight he can't win. With his eyes glowing blue, the boy gives a devilish smile and celebrates that his skill has finally leveled up. Massive blue aura explodes around him, sending rocks flying in a display of pure power. In the middle of the glow, the system announces that his magic bullet has just reached level 2. Not understanding a thing, the girl's jaw drops as she watches the ground shake while the magic grows uncontrollably. Shocked, she whispers, wondering how his skill leveled up in the middle of a battle like that. Focused, the boy explains that he spent his entire past life researching the limits and functions of magic. According to him, fighting much stronger enemies forces a person to understand their own skill to its absolute limit, increasing the chances of leveling up in a crisis. Staring at the paralyzed monster, he states that by combining hard work and taking a beating, the magic happens. Now that the skill is level 2, its overall performance has improved by 100%, giving him a range of new options. And for the grand finale, he announces that if he combines everything in penetration mode and unleashes maximum power, the damage will be insane. At that moment, the bear lets out a monstrous roar, breaking free from the stasis and leaping at the boy. With all the coolness in the world, the kid simply says the word penetration, as the blue magic blinds everyone on the field. The blue beam tears through the giant bear's chest from side to side, piercing its tough hide as if it were butter. With an agonizing grunt, the monster spits blood and falls face first to the ground, completely defeated. Leaving a trail of destruction behind, the kid blows on his finger, sheriff style, and lowers his hand. Sprawled out with a hole in its chest, the bear is done for, and silence dominates the forest. Jaw dropped. The girl can't believe his firepower was pathetic seconds ago, and now he's blown a hole in an irregular. At that exact moment, a loud voice comes from the loudspeakers, announcing that the exam is over. A bit lost, the girl cries, thinking that time has already run out and they barely got any points. Rubbing his chin, our hero thinks to himself that if the irregular monster really isn't worth any points on the scoreboard, then it'll be up to luck and pure nerve if he earned enough points to be promoted to Class B right away. In the morning, the area is full of professors in suits analyzing the beast's colossal body and the extent of the damage. In total shock, the head professor can't accept that a D-class piece of trash killed the school's biggest threat all by himself. Biting his finger in rage, the D-class professor accuses the boy of cheating somehow and demands punishment. Calm as water, the bald principal raises his arms and throws it in the professor's face that suspecting his own student is precisely why he was demoted to teach the worst class. Worried, an assistant wants to know what they're going to do about the boy's score. Looking at his phone, the principal confirms that the videos recorded by the dungeon prove with absolute certainty that the kid eliminated the beer. With his back to the group, the bald man announces that, following the test rules to the letter, that beast is worth 0 points. Smiling, the bald man decides that he needs to be rewarded for prioritizing his classmates' safety over chasing points for himself. The next day in the cafeteria, the bombshell news explodes over the loudspeakers, celebrating that the duo shot up from the bottom of the barrel, straight to first place in the entire first year. To the girls' delight, the news says they're both officially promoted to Class B, with all the perks. The scene cuts to the elite's cafeteria, with a portion of fancy food on a luxurious golden plate. Eating like a pig, the boy devours the meat, not caring about anything while the people around gossip, shocked by the presence of a former D-class student there. Awkwardly, the girl laughs at the situation, commenting that he eats like an ogre right under everyone's nose. Crying rivers of emotion, he remembers that in his past life, he spent all his food money on research books and hadn't eaten a good piece of meat in decades. But the party ends quickly when a deep voice calls the boy out of nowhere. Startled, the purple-haired girl gulps, recognizing the bully from a distance. Whispering in her partner's ear, she warns that the guy standing in front of their table is none other than the most powerful first-year student. With a confident smile and crossing his arms, the king of the school compliments the girl for being smart. But with a sour look, he slams the table and says she made a huge mistake on one essential detail. Sitting in the chair like a mafia boss, the spiky-haired guy yells for the whole cafeteria to hear that he doesn't just run Class A, but the entire school. Staring down our MC with glowing red eyes, he claims he saw the security camera footage from the exam and knows all about the bizarre magic the kid uses. With his goons around him, the leader points the kid's plate and remarks that it seems the B-class food isn't half bad. Chewing with his mouth full, our boy responds with a dry thanks. Ignoring the threat. Looking for trouble, the preppy kid points a knife at the purple-haired girl's face and asks if he plans on hanging around with her from now on. Pissed off, the boy looks up, staring down the psycho, and tells him to get to the point. Cutting his own steak, the king of the school admits the kid has some skill but swears his luck won't last forever. A malicious smile, he chooses meat and notes that the MC finally managed to get to Class B. Then he turns his chair and makes his proposal, asking if he wants to eliminate the risk of being demoted again. With a grim face, our hero listens to the recruitment speech and asks what happens if he says a big fat no. The bully's eyes glow red as he promises to crush the kid without a second thought. Letting out a long sigh, the boy drops his silverware on the plate and gets up from the table peacefully. With his tray in hand, he announces he has no intention of exposing the dirty tricks the preppy kid pulls behind the scenes. Quietly leaving, he asks to be left out of this pointless fight. But before turning his back completely, the kid drops a hint, reminding the guy that he said he had been promoted to Class B. Confused, the king of the school looks over his shoulder and lets out a loud hoot. With a challenging smile, our MC announces that he doesn't want to stay in Class B and that the real plan is to climb all the way to that untouchable elite class. With a little laugh, the leader understands the boy's audacity and pushes his bangs back, finding his swagger amusing. Pointing his knife at the kid, he declares that as a subordinate, he'd get a 0, but as entertainment, he actually passed the test. The group of preppy kids gets ready to fight, and the king stands up from his chair, wanting to confirm his name as Kazuki Shindo. With their faces almost touching, the bully threatens him, swearing that after this confrontation, he won't be able to take back his words. Sweating, the purple-haired girl watches the standoff as her partner turns his back and calmly walks away from the table. Later that day, the goons are gathered in an empty room, fuming over the newcomer's disrespect. Trembling, one of them asks their boss, Neo, what they should do to punish his insolence. Serious and cold, the king tells the goon to shut his mouth. Crushing a water bottle in his hand, he yells at the trash not to try giving him advice with that pathetic brain. The goon bows, apologizing instantly, terrified of his boss's fury. In a dark tone, the leader mentally admits that the kid is the perfect prey to cure his boredom. Walking out the doors, he smiles devilishly, saying the boy's timing was perfect for causing some chaos. With his mind scheming, he thinks that maybe he should throw a certain girl at the protagonist to see what happens. In the classroom, the desks are empty as everyone leaves for the end of the school day. Letting out a heavy sigh, the purple-haired girl packs her notebooks in her backpack, tired of the elite pace. Showing up out of nowhere, the boy comments that his partner looks terribly exhausted. With a weak smile, she complains that compared to D-class, the B-class lessons are much harder and more demanding. But she returns the comment, saying he seems quite relaxed despite the sudden change. Suddenly, the girl stares at the door with wide eyes, asking if that's him arriving. At the classroom door, gossip spreads like wildfire as students whisper in amazement about the boy who shot up from the lowest class to the top in a single leap, finding the story highly suspicious. Placing a hand on his partner's shoulder, he tries to comfort the girl, telling her not to let those malicious comments shake her confidence. With a sincere look, he assures her that if she keeps showing good results, people's opinions will change on their own. But the entire hallway gets way too loud, and the boy finds the commotion strange, going to see what's happening at the door. When he glances down the hall, his eyes widen in astonishment. With a hand on the wall, a girl with light blue hair and a bored expression appears, leaving our MC in shock as he recognizes her as the #1 first year. Hamakawa-hism. In his mind, the girl is a monster. She's the untouchable genius who never lost the top spot in her 3 years at the academy, and will one day be known as the strongest mage in the entire world. Trembling, he wonders what the heck a legend like her is doing at the door of Class B. The mage announces to everyone in the hallway that she's there looking for a specific student. She stops and thinks with a blank expression, realizing she's simply forgotten the name of the person she was looking for. Shrugging, the genius says it doesn't matter who it is, since she came down from the top to find someone strong, but ended up not seeing anyone worthwhile around. With no filter, she lays it on the line, saying that if this is all Class B has to offer, she wasted her time coming here. Turning her back, she apologizes for disturbing their peace and starts to leave. But out of nowhere, a loud voice shouts, drawing her attention back. Our protagonist steps forward and asks point blank if the student she was looking for happens to be named Shindu Kazuki. Haired girl turns slowly, looking the kid up and down with a calm, empty gaze, silently measuring his power. Scratching her head, the legend confirms that might actually be the name of the guy she wanted to see. With firm steps, the boy advances, saying this is perfect as he was also very interested in her. Calling the girl by her full name, the MC drops the bombshell and asks for a one-on-one duel with the genius right in the middle of the hallway. Staring down the number one, he thinks that she may just be a student today, but knowing that in the future she will reign at the top of the world, his blood boils. Clenching his fist with determination, he swears to himself that he wants to test just how far his tuning can go against the best of the best. The entire hallway erupts in panic with students shouting, wanting to know what this commotion is about the newcomer challenging the queen. In the midst of the chaos, a blonde, preppy kid with glasses arrives, asking what all the noise is about, and is identified as the number 2 ranked first year, the famous Shirasaya Sojiro. The gossips go completely wild, pointing at the blonde guy and not believing that the student council president himself has shown up. With a bored look, the blonde adjusts his glasses and asks what the genius is up to in B class territory. Pointing a thumb at our hero, she replies with the laziest tone in the world that the kid apparently wants to fight her in a duel. Looking him up and down, the president finds the idea absurd, but admits, if both parties agree, the use of the training grounds is fully permitted by the school rules. Sighing, he comments that things are getting interesting for them. A fiery aura rips through the crowd, and the king of the school himself, Neo-Jin, appears, saying that finally, a challenger with spirit has shown up. Staring at the genius, the preppy kid tells it like it is, saying that since she's the greatest mind since the academy's founding, she could at least throw him a bone and accept the fight to play with the kid. Laughing at the villain's face, the student council president asks if he's planning some scheme behind the scenes. Scratching the back of her neck, the genius girl lets out a sigh and accepts, wanting to get the bureaucracy over with. Looking sleepy, she says she'll only fight to get it over with so she can go home and sleep in peace. King Neo and the president confirm with sinister smiles that in that case, both sides agree to the rules, and the duel will happen. In the late afternoon, the academy's open training ground is empty, with only the blue sky and a light breeze blowing. Watching from a distance, the boy's partner and the king of the school have ringside seats. With his hand on his chin, the president comments to the villain that at first, he thought the boy had some old beef with the genius, but it seems that's not the case at all. With narrowed eyes, he raises the question of why the newcomer would risk everything by challenging the top student in such a meaningless duel. Far away on the field, the boy takes a deep breath and confesses the reason to himself as he faces his opponent. Clenching his hands, the kid swears he just wanted to test with all his might if his calculations would work against her absurd talent. Watching from above, the blonde kid with glasses understands the newcomer's thirst for victory and says, "Ha, I see," as he adjusts his frames. With a hand on the kid's shoulder, the president with glasses gives a friendly smile, telling him to fight to his heart's content. Looking to the side, he calls the genius by her first name, asking for her attention to an important rule. Unlike the common training grounds, he warns that here, you can't just go destroying the whole place in the middle of a fight. Staring at the giant arena, he makes a direct request, telling the girl not to use her forbidden technique. Placing a hand on her hip, the blue-haired legend gives a snobbish smile and replies that she won't need to use any of that against him. With the terms set, the president announces that the fight can now begin, giving them space. Behind the fence, the gossiping B-class audience calls the newcomer arrogant, swearing that just because he got lucky and leveled up, he now thinks he's the king of the world and has no idea of the gulf that separates Class B from Class A. In whispers, the crowd thinks the guy is stupid for trying to take on not just someone from Class A, but the girl who is number 1 in the entire academy. Gripping the chain link fence, the purple-haired girl gulps, cheering for her partner as the tension mounts. With his hand raised in the middle of the field, the student council president prepares to give the signal. Our MC and the blue legend stare each other down, waiting for the referee's final word. Lowering his hand forcefully, the blonde shouts, "Bejin," kicking off the most anticipated duel of the day. In the same millisecond, our hero aims his finger and yells, "Maximum penetration mode," while the genius casts a level 3 ice spell. The two blasts fly across the field, tearing up the ground and clashing head-on in an explosion of power. With the force of the impact, the wind hits the genius's face, forcing her to shield her eyes and take a step back, feeling the pressure of the shot. The clash of magic kicks up dust everywhere, creating a giant cloud in the middle of the field. Leaping through the dust, the kid appears with his finger smoking and asks with a laugh if he's finally gotten her attention. Behind the fence, the students panic, not believing his basic magic bullet managed to go head-to-head with the number one's ice spell without any magical element to help it. Leaning against the screen, his purple-haired partner smiles in relief, seeing that even against the top of the academy, the boy didn't back down an inch. Sighing, he realizes that the first impact shifted the momentum to his side, but he swears he can't let his guard down for a second. With his eyes focused, he understands he needs to land a decisive blow now and take full control of the fight before she retaliates with everything she's got. Picking up the pace, he fires several magic bullets, constantly changing the tuning bar to confuse the girl. Leaping backward like a ninja, the number one dodges all the shots while skidding on the dirt field. Biting his finger, our MC concludes that even if he focuses all his tuning on maximum speed, she's still too fast for him to follow with the naked eye. Changing tactics on the spot, he yells, "Wide area tuning," and changes his firing style. A gigantic blast sweeps across the ground, heading straight for the genius. To everyone's surprise, she doesn't even blink and, with a somersault, dodges over the entire magical explosion with the greatest of ease. Impressed by her reflexes, he lets out a whistle as he sees the girl land unscathed in the dust. Sweating, he can't believe the girl managed to predict and dodge an attack that covered almost the entire field. With a smile of someone who's discovered the secret, he finally figures out the trick behind the famous evil eye of intuition. Revealing the sham, he lays it on the table that the reason Himekawa is untouchable is because she possesses one of the rarest skills in the Evil Eye series. And pointing to his own eye, he warns that her shining eyes are the real danger in this fight. The magic allows the user to see the trajectory of anyone's killing intent before the blow is even thrown. Because of this, the number one reads the path of all enemy attacks and dodges automatically, combining her vision with reflexes enhanced by movement magic. From behind the dust, the girl appears, brushing off her shoulder and saying his bullet missed its target again, proving her fighting style is perfect. Without wasting time, she throws her hand forward, activating her level 3 ice mode once more. Quickly, the kid switches his magic bullet's configuration to defense mode and creates a round shield, blocking the genius's icy blast. Staring at the defense, the girl's eye glows pink, and she warns that it doesn't matter how fast his magic bullet is, as long as she has her eye activated, his shots will never touch her. With a weak smile, the boy states that in that case, he just needs to attack the exact moment her vision fails. Prepared for the attack, she's startled by the shower of blue bullets flying at her and notices something very strange. During the rapid-fire sequence, the genius notices that every single bullet fired by the kid has a completely different speed and firepower. Leaping away, she mentally admits she thought he was just switching from level 1 to 2 during the shot, but it was much worse than that. Swallowing hard, the genius realizes the madman is freely altering the spell's internal parameters in fractions of a second, just to adapt to her every move on the field. But smirking, she swears that even with all this trickery, he's letting a very obvious pattern slip through. In her reasoning, when the bullet is slow, the shot is charged with maximum destructive power. But when the bullet is super fast, it has no force and becomes just a harmless scratch. With an acrobatic leap, the genius dodges the magic stones, thinking that the powerful bullets are so slow she can easily get away without breaking a sweat. Out of nowhere, a giant blue beam explodes in her direction, forcing the girl to throw her body back to escape. Seeing the size of the beam, she realizes it's one of the slow ones and decides to ignore the attack to close the distance in the blink of an eye and go for the final kill. Skidding on the dirt, the number one prepares to finish the fight and celebrates, saying, "Now it's my turn." Aware of the girl's entire strategy, the kid raises his finger and reviews the fact that her intuition only works by reading the malice behind an enemy's attack. And with a malicious smile, he draws the obvious conclusion that the ability can't predict an attack made with no intention at all. Taking advantage of the slow beam that flew past her, the boy alters the bullet's settings again. Making an impossible curve in the air, the shot comes back like a boomerang from behind the girl, forcing her to click her tongue in anger. Twisting her body in mid-air, she dodges the boomerang by a millimeter, feeling the pressure of the shot almost grazing her head. Facing the genius who has fallen to the ground in shock, the MC appears and says he waited for this exact moment to catch her off guard, using his own slow bullets as bait. Biting his finger, he reveals with a smile that the fatal weakness of her magic eye is its inability to predict irregular spells that change on their own after being fired. Full of himself, he says, "Gotcha," and tells her she's finally made a mistake that will cost her dearly. But with a cold expression, our hero completes the humiliation by saying that, on top of that, her skill has another huge flaw, even if she sees the attack coming. It's useless if she doesn't have time to dodge it. On the blue-haired girl throws her hand forward, desperately shouting, "Celestial Ice Magic!" But giving her no chance, our MC aims at her and warns that her shot was too slow to stop him, and he yells, "Full power penetration mode." The boy's finger glows, ready to fire, but suddenly the blue light vanishes, and his eyes widen in terror at the bizarre failure. In shock, the kid wonders if his skill malfunctioned right at the moment of the final blow. Looking at the MC's frozen body, the girl knows there's no ice magic involved and concludes, astonished, that the freeze was not her skills doing at all. On his knees, our hero feels an invisible punch to the gut and coughs up blood, losing the duel. Quickly, the blonde president runs into the arena with his hand raised, announcing the end of the fight and declaring the blue legend as the great victor. Completely exhausted and lying in the dust, the boy curses under his breath, furious for losing in such a ridiculous way. Outside the fence, the crowd cheers, making fun of him and mocking that he acted all tough just to lose from a lack of mana in the end, finding him pathetic. But alone, with his head down, the boy rejects the idea of running out of mana and knows there's something much dirtier behind that failure. With his hand digging into the sand, the kid is certain that in the second before he pulled the trigger, someone from the outside interfered and messed with his skills settings on purpose to make him miss. Running frantically across the arena, his purple-haired partner arrives, screaming, and throws herself to the ground, asking if he's alive and if he's badly hurt. Holding her hand, the boy props himself up, looking up and saying he's fine. Turning his back on the arena, King Neo clicks his tongue in disgust and tells his goons they can leave, because there's nothing left to see. Celebrating like idiots, the preppy kids laugh at the MC, saying that in the end, that psycho was all bark and no bite, and this beating finally put the D-class trash back in his place. With a bloodthirsty look and veins popping, King Neo stops and glares at his goons, his red eyes glowing with suppressed rage. He asks if those idiots really believe that lie, which leaves the guys in shock, trembling and asking what the boss is talking about. Taking a step forward, the blue-haired genius calls out to King Jin and stops right in front of him in the middle of the crowd. Glaring at the guy, the Academy's queen asks point blank if he was the one who pulled that stunt right at the moment of the shot. Cynical to the core, King Neo laughs and asks why he would ruin the chance to see the MC's true strength, assuring her he had nothing to do with it. Rolling her eyes and finding it all a pain, the girl turns her back and basically says, "Whatever," tossing the problem aside. Walking away with the wind in her hair, she passes by the king and whispers that she will remember the newcomer's name very well. Running a hand through his spiky hair, the villain laughs and admits he doesn't know who interfered in the fight but celebrates the exact timing of the attack from behind. Remembering the boomerang shot, he smiles maliciously and mentally admits that the newcomer's last blow would have finished the girl off if it had connected. Keeping an eye on the couple quietly leaving the field, the evil leader focuses on the MC and thinks he's going to be much more trouble and much more fun than he expected. Sometime later, in the school library, the purple-haired partner celebrates finding the answer to a problem, holding up the book with a smile. The two are sitting at a giant table full of notebooks, studying hard for the week of written exams. With the book in hand, the boy calmly explains that the mechanics of magical abilities seem difficult, but you can actually understand the theory by paying attention to their common principles. Shocked, the girl states that a deep deduction tactic like that would never be written in a normal school textbook. Very happy, she swears he saved her skin, since she had only memorized the subject, because the teachers never taught the D-class trash how to think properly about magic theory. Making an excuse, the MC gives a weak laugh and swears that reading about it is just a silly hobby of his. He also adds that if the goal is just to pass the test, there's no need to go that deep into magic theory. Relieved, the purple-haired girl confesses that she thinks she can finally pass the written exams, now without failing everything and getting expelled. Overjoyed, the kid agrees, since a failing grade means immediate expulsion from Class B. They just needed to secure the basics to survive. A random guy passes by the table, clumsily asking for an "excuse me." The jerk intentionally knocks over his own glass of water right on the table where their papers were. With ninja-like reflexes, the kid catches the glass before it spills, saving the notebook and leaving his partner speechless with the shock. Cold and calculating, he returns the glass and warns the preppy kid to be more careful next time. To finish, he throws a sarcastic comment in his face, saying that open drinks are forbidden in the library. Sweating and stuttering, the goon takes the glass, offering a lame apology and slowly backing away. With an angry look, his partner wants to know if that was an attack from one of the preppy kid's goons. Laughing, he admits the guy is probably part of one of the clusters and came here on someone's orders just to disrupt their study routine at any cost. Leaving the library in the late afternoon, the boy thinks about their plan and finds their tactics pretty childish and poorly executed for someone who thinks he's the king of the school. Under a beautiful sunset, he hopes it's just his paranoia, but he knows the beef is definitely not over. Walking outside, the girl thanks him for his help with studying that day with a sincere smile. The kid says it was no big deal and served as a review for him too. Striking up a conversation, the girl says that someone strong and good at studying like him must be planning big things and ends up trying to find out what her partner's big dream is. With a smile vanishing from his face, he tells her the truth, saying that even though he's strong in magic combat, he can't get into Class A without perfect grades and an academic diploma, so he needs to grind his studies. Swallowing hard, the boy silently admits that the only thing he's ever studied his whole life was the theory of tuning, and he barely knows basic high school math, which is why he's struggling. Full of hope, the girl asks if he's planning to get to the top just to graduate from Class A and have a fancy certificate. Scratching the back of his neck, he confesses that graduating from Class A is just the first step and a requirement to get what he really wants. Not understanding it all, the girl turns and asks what his ultimate dream is, after all. Clenching his fists, our hero says with a firm voice that his dream is to get into Tenju University, the biggest and most respected in the entire country. In shock, the girl lets out a startled cry and realizes he wants to get to the top of the country to gain fame and money. But shattering her expectations, he says he wants to get to the top only to make the theory of tuning famous and turn it into something that every mage in the world can use. Very sadly, the girl points out that current society only values those with the highest number of birth skills and rare abilities, and that people think the untalented should stay in the gutter, a trend that won't change for decades. With fire in his eyes, the MC retorts that if he creates a world where even the weak with poor talent can break their own limits using tuning for free, people's mindsets will be forced to change through the pressure of the masses. Full of determination, he swears he wants to build a society where any trash mage with the weakest skills can fight head-to-head with the elite prodigies for first place, purely based on their own effort. With a sad smile, the girl points out that society thinks that idea is impossible and absurd. In his mind, the memory of his past flashes, where he tried to teach tuning to everyone but was only called a heretic, ignored by everyone, and then thrown in the mud to perish like trash on the street. To fix that, he states that if he has a perfect diploma from the top elite academy as proof, the garbage teachers will have no excuse to ignore his voice, and his research will gain credibility by force. Boiling with rage, the kid swears on everything that he will put an end to the broken system that judges a person's worth by where they were born. Looking at the blue sky, he smiles, saying he wants to do this to ensure no other talentless, snubbed mage suffers again, and that everyone has at least one chance to shine without having to give up before trying. Holding her hands close to her chest, his purple-haired partner blushes impressed and praises his determination, calling him incredible for thinking of others before himself. She confesses she doesn't have any beautiful life goal like that, walking with her head held high. The purple-haired girl smiles and says that if she could choose, she just wanted to make it to the end of these 3 years of school alive and graduated. She confesses that the only thing she wanted was to look back on graduation day, beat her chest, and proudly say that she gave it her all until the very end, even without any talent. Super shy, she covers her face and says her goal is so pathetic compared to his plan to save the world. Shaking his head gently, he denies it and assures her that her dream is excellent, just the way it is. In another part of the school, the king of jerks is slumped in his chair like a movie villain, glaring with hatred at a group of goons. Trembling, one of the poor guys reports that the mission to spill the water and ruin our MC's notebook failed miserably. The leader lets out a terrifying, devilish smile and asks very calmly how the idiots managed to screw up a plan as simple and stupid as spilling water. The nobody stammers, trying to explain it wasn't his fault. Jumping up from his chair, King Neo appears beside the preppy kid like a ghost, telling the guy to relax, that he's not going to kill anyone there today. Whispering in the fool's ear, he asks if he's ever hit someone who followed his orders to the end and still failed while trying, and sweating, the goon swallows his own saliva in fear, shaking his head no. Trembling, the other idiots confirm, saying the boss is nice. With a monstrous roar, he grabs the nobody's head and smashes the guy's face into the classroom table until the bone cracks. Holding the bleeding guy by the head, he announces that the punch is punishment for being so incompetent as to try and hide his failure and blame others. Sitting back down, the boss swears he never thought a childish little trick would shake a cycle like the newcomer and reveals that the water plan was just a distraction at worst. Looking at the sunny campus, he states that the MC is the main course, but hunting him is last on the menu. With his red eyes glowing like fire, the king declares with a malicious smile that he will first destroy all the partnerships and pillars the boy has, revealing that his real target is to focus on screwing over the purple-haired girl to affect the newcomer psychologically, and then he informs the gang that the real game will begin during exam week. The scene quickly cuts to the day of the dreaded written exam, and the entire classroom is in absolute silence, with everyone focused and sweating over their test papers. With her back to the world, the purple-haired girl flips through the pages, not believing what she's reading, and enters extreme panic mode. She tries to take a deep breath, thinking she's definitely going to be expelled for good if she can't solve anything on that paper, which looks like Greek to her. It's so difficult. Suddenly, the bell rings loudly announcing that time is up and everyone has to put down their pens. A professor as bald as an egg throws the papers and tells the students to turn everything in at his desk, warning that they can't change anything now. With both hands on his desk, our MC gives a relaxed smile, thinking that day's test was actually pretty easy compared to his paranoia, and he didn't have to sweat that much. Rubbing his chin, he suspects that because he was on high alert, expecting some dirty trick from the preppy kid, he might have overreacted. As he's thinking, the bald professor starts to gather the stack of tests and slams it on the desk to straighten the pile. Out of nowhere, a female student raises her hand, shouting to get the professor's attention in the middle of the room. The bald professor says, "Wes." With a malevolent look, the female goon cynically and maliciously asks him to very carefully check the purple-haired student's desk, raising suspicion of cheating during the test. Pointing a finger with an innocent look, the girl spreads her poison, saying she saw her partner cheating during the exam. Watching the theatrics, our MC finally figures out the elite group's petty plan to screw over the girl. With his head spinning, the boy realizes that the cluster's trap was set for her from the very first second of the test. Joining the chorus, another gossip raises her hand, shouting for everyone to hear that she also saw the suspicious act. Another evil ally chimes in, yelling that he also witnessed the fraud, and the whole classroom turns into a kangaroo court of lies. Completely panicking, the purple-haired partner trembles and can't even speak from the stress of the cowardly attack. Analyzing the board, the young man realizes that for a strong group like that, planting false evidence and turning the class against her is a piece of cake. Without letting up, the accuser points at her face, asking if she isn't hiding a cheat sheet under her desk. Slamming the desk hard, the purple-haired girl jumps up, startled, yelling that she would never do something so dirty. To her despair, a piece of paper full of notes and magic formulas falls from her desk right in front of everyone. Jaw dropped by the setup, the girl swears up and down that she's never had that paper in her life. Walking slowly, the bald professor stops in front of her with a serious face and asks if that lie is true. Shaking like a leaf, the poor girl panics, knowing that if the professor believes the liars, her expulsion is guaranteed. Clear things up, the bald director announces that for security, he will search every inch of the girl's desk. Completely frozen and with tears in her eyes, she looks at the paper on the floor, wondering how that piece of crap got there. Seeing her desperation, the boy knows that at this rate, his partner's expulsion is a matter of minutes. Aware of the danger, our MC understands he needs to get rid of that fake paper before the professor gets his hands on it. In a split second, the young man prepares a tiny, silent magic bullet, configured to minimum power so it won't make a sound in the room. Without anyone noticing, he fires the quick shot under the desks, aiming directly at the fake paper on the floor. The precise shot burns and disintegrates the false evidence before the bald professor gets close, securing her alibi. Startled, the purple-haired partner looks at the MC, not understanding what just happened. Bending down to search, the bald professor checks everything and announces with a dumbfounded look that he didn't find any cheat sheet there. Enraged by the plan's failure, the accuser takes a step back, yelling that it's impossible and the evidence should have been there. With a stern look, the professor lectures the liar, reminding her she can't accuse her classmate without real evidence. Even so, the atmosphere remains tense, with the other gossips saying that several witnesses saw her suspicious behavior. To not prolong the show, the bald man announces that if there was cheating, it will be clear from the final results of her test answers. Without another word, the professor tells the purple-haired girl to go straight to the principal's office after the bell to give a statement. Dejected and weak, the poor girl just nods, accepting her unjust fate. At lunchtime, the gossip runs rampant through the cafeteria, with people pointing and laughing at the B-class couple. Resting her head on the table, the purple-haired girl cries softly, enduring the comments that D-class people are only good for being dumb and cheating. In the cafeteria, students mock, saying that cheating on a test is grounds for immediate expulsion and that she threw her chance at a better life straight in the trash. Clutching her skirt, the girl shrinks in her chair and listens to jokes that low-level people have no pride. Saddened by the scene, our MC realizes that even the people who aren't part of the elite group are looking at her suspiciously because of the lie. He figures out that if they can brand her as a cheater, the evil plan works, and even if she isn't expelled, the pressure will make her drop out of school. Gritting his teeth, he admits he didn't want trouble, but seeing that cowardice up close forces him to join the game and break them. With hatred in his eyes, he gets up from the table, swearing that this charade is the most disgusting thing he's ever seen. Throwing the door open, the boy storms into the student council room with all the swagger in the world, leaving his partner behind, jaw dropped. Astonished, she whispers her partner's name, watching him walk into the lion's den without any fear. In the room, the elite goons are standing like guard dogs in front of their boss, Neo. Seeing the newcomer's audacity, King Neo gives a smirk while his goons tremble with rage at the intruder's nerve. Without asking for permission, our MC stops in the middle of the room, facing the cluster's leader head on. Tossing his head back, the villain laughs and confesses he was expecting the boy's visit at any moment. Mockingly, he comments that he heard about the commotion in the B classroom and throws it in his face that some idiot got caught cheating. Straight to the point, our hero tells the king that setting up a stunt like that to screw over the girl is the cheapest and most cowardly thing he could have done. Laughing with disdain, the preppy kid looks away, claiming it's just a silly accusation with no proof. Ironically, the king says it must be hard for the boy to accept that his friend is a liar, and now he wants to play the hero to save a fraud's skin. Without blinking, our MC returns the mockery, reminding him that coming from the head of the biggest cheating ring in the school, hearing him talk about justice is a joke. The king's face freezes with rage, and he glares at the kid, asking what he meant by that insult. Pointing a finger, the villain throws it in the hero's face that he's barking too loud and demands to know if the newcomer has any proof that the girl's accusation was fabricated. With a smirk, the king swears he has no proof for her defense and that the girl is screwed either way. Head down, our MC listens to the threat that, when he gives up fighting, he can say goodbye to his purple-haired partner for good. Laughing loudly, the leader points to the ceiling and shouts that in this diploma-obsessed society, anyone expelled from an elite school is practically dead for the rest of their life. In a dark voice, the young man listens as the villain gloats about the pain of people who are thrown to the curb by the system. In the MC's mind, the image of the dark alley where he almost met his end flashes, and he swears he knows that pain and the fear of death much better than any of those daddy's boys. Boiling with rage, he glares at the king with a terrifying, murderous aura, telling the preppy kid to never dare joke about his life again. Laughing nervously, one of the goons tries to act tough in front of the MC, finding his attitude absurd. Gritting his teeth and cracking his knuckles, King Yojin unleashes a giant, fiery presence, asking if the newcomer really wants to settle this beef with his fists right here, right now. Maintaining his calm, the MC says he has no plans to fight there and get expelled, but swears that he won't let the evil group get away with their trap against his partner. The pointing a finger in the king's face, the boy gives a final warning, promising that the preppy kid will bitterly regret making an enemy of him. The scene cuts to the next day, and the bald professor slams the papers on his desk, declaring the end of class and calling for everyone's attention. Startled, the purple-haired partner raises her head upon hearing her name called by the bald professor. With a stern look, the professor announces they will conduct an official investigation, cross-referencing her answers to find any irregularities in the test. She accepts her fate, saying a very quiet, "Yes, sir," with no strength left to fight. In the hallway, the gossips comment mockingly that the game is over for her and laugh, calling the poor girl an idiot for not knowing her place. Suddenly, a hand goes up in the back of the room as our MC interrupts the session, asking the professor to wait a minute. Looking confused, the professor with glasses turns and asks what Shindo wants, interrupting the case. Slamming his hand on the desk, the boy stands up with all the confidence in the world and announces he has an excellent proposal to resolve this investigation right now. His partner looks at him, completely clueless, as the young man begins to speak about the cheating case. Facing the room, the boy throws it in the gossips' faces that no one has found any real proof of cheating on the girl's desk so far. Among the desks, the crowd starts to whisper nervously while the bald professor retorts that's precisely why they're opening an internal investigation. The accuser doesn't understand where the kid is going with all this talk. With his back turned, the boy ignores the chatter and focuses only on the professor, who watches the scene, intrigued. Opening his arms, he raises the question of whether there's an obvious possibility that the suspect got rid of the cheat sheet using some secret skill right at the time of the search. With a sharp gaze, the MC delivers the checkmate, proposing that the professor use a skill trace detection spell on the girl's desk to settle the matter once and for all. Shocked, the purple-haired partner looks at the boy, not understanding why her own partner is throwing her under the bus like that in front of everyone. Thinking fast, the girl remembers that her partner destroyed the fake paper using the silent magic bullet and realizes that if they search for skill residue, they'll end up finding his magic signature. Sweating, she desperately wonders if the boy is trying to take the blame himself just to save her from expulsion. Clutching the notebook on her desk, she feels guilty, thinking she only got this far because of him and doesn't want to cause any more trouble for her partner. Suddenly standing up, another girl asks to speak, red with embarrassment, confessing that she's been thinking a lot about the cheating case. Stepping into the circle, the newcomer declares that the whole cheating accusation is just a big misunderstanding. Jaw dropped, the purple-haired partner is completely confused by the sudden turn of events from the students in the room. With her hands open, the new witness swears she was sitting right next to the accused and guarantees the girl did absolutely nothing suspicious during the exam. Staring at her colleague, the liar who set everything up angrily asks what the two of them think they're saying in the middle of the case. Without backing down, the witness throws it in her face that no one was watching the girl's desk for the entire test and reinforces that not even the professor found any proof there. The rumor spreads through the room, and the audience starts to murmur that the accuser must have been seeing things, and that the purple-haired girl would never do something so stupid. Gritting her teeth in anger, the liar realizes her plan to screw over the girl has gone down the drain. Whispering in her accomplice's ear, the other goon warns that things have gotten ugly for them, and they need to do something quick before it all blows up. Raising her hand with a tearful expression, the liar shouts, calling for the bald professor with all her might. Bowing in a dramatic apology, the chariot falls apart, and she yells that she's so sorry for all the confusion. Wiping cold sweat from her face, she makes up the excuse that she was the one who tampered with her classmate's desk without permission right after the test ended. Completely lost, the purple-haired partner lets out a show, not believing her rivals are backing down so pathetically. The liar swears to the professor that she thought the paper was a cheat sheet but now realizes it was just a draft unrelated to the test. Looking very serious, the professor with glasses gets annoyed and demands to know what she really thinks she's doing. Faking a cry, the liar says she was scared to tell the truth before because the situation had gotten out of her control too quickly. Shouting apologies once more, the two accomplices bow their heads, feigning total remorse before the professor. Leaving the school in the late afternoon, our MC walks calmly with his backpack, happy that the plan worked. Running to catch up with her partner, the purple-haired girl tugs on his sleeve, wanting to know what actually happened in that room. She confesses that there was indeed a fake paper planted on her desk by the rivals from the cluster. And she realizes the liars knew very well it was no misunderstanding, since they were the ones who planted the evidence there. With wide eyes, she insists, asking why her rivals suddenly decided to defend her instead of finishing their attack. With a smirk, the kid looks back and calmly replies that the logic is quite simple to understand. His eyes glowing blue, he figures that if they had done a skill residue search, things would have gotten ugly for the enemies either way. That's because the cluster members secretly use telepathy skills to share the answers to written exams among themselves. Walking through the courtyard, he explains that if a magical skill search had been activated in the room to investigate her cheating, it would have certainly created a ripple effect, revealing the magic signature of the entire cluster's fraud network, which is why they were forced to defend her to protect themselves. Chatting casually, the young man confesses that from the beginning, he knew it would be almost impossible to prove her innocence fairly. Walking slowly, he reveals that's why he gave up on finding proof, and instead focused on making his enemies clear her name with no other choice. With sobbing softly, the girl wipes her face and gets her partner's attention, who stops immediately. He turns and asks what's wrong with his purple-haired partner. Running toward him with tears in her eyes, she vents that the relief of being free from that injustice was overwhelming, and thanks him from the bottom of her heart. Crying like a child, she confesses she was absolutely sure that day would be the end of the line, and she would be expelled without mercy. Looking at the boy with admiration, she swears that if it weren't for him, she would have been lost for good. Affectionately, he gives the girl a gentle pat on the head, asking her to stop crying. Smiling calmly, the kid says he just did what needed to be done and tells his partner to relax once and for all. Staring at the girl up close, he confesses he's very happy to see that she's safe and well after that whole storm. The next day in the student council meeting room, the goons watch as King Neo Jin sits on his leather throne with a sour look. Opening the door, the informant runs in and announces he managed to get his hands on Kazuki Shindo's official test results. Taking the paper, the king glances at the document and his eyes widen when he sees the boy's grades. Slumped in his chair, he scoffs in surprise, seeing that the newcomer got a perfect score in absolutely every written subject on the test. With a smirk, the lackey with glasses comments that the kid is not only a good fighter but a real brainiac, and with those perfect scores, he earned the right to compete in the promotion test for Class A. Crumpling the paper, Kinnyo angrily admits that trying to sabotage or set traps against the newcomer didn't work at all. Tossing the papers into the air, he yells furiously that the only option left is to use brute force to crush the kid without giving him a chance to react. With a sinister smile and sharp teeth, he turns to the side and announces that's where his secret weapon comes into play. In the midst of the paper shower, a calm young man in a tie is introduced as Akira Oshima, the number 7 ranked student in Class A, known as the Magic Bullet Exterminator. The scene cuts to the fancy cafeteria, where our hero and his purple-haired partner are having coffee in complete peace. Curious, the girl asks if the promotion test he's about to take is really that dangerous. Taking a sip of his tea, the boy explains with a confident smile that the top-scoring students from Class B get a golden opportunity to move up to the elite Class A. The catch is that the test rule requires him to win an official duel against the 10th-ranked student in Class A to steal their spot by force. Since he placed first in both the dungeon hunt and the written exams, he earned the right to challenge the elite to a one-on-one. Clenching his fist with determination, the kid celebrates that the golden opportunity he's been seeking is finally in his grasp. Slamming the table excitedly, the purple-haired partner yells for him to do his best, swearing she'll be there in the front row, cheering him on. With a sincere smile, the boy thanks his partner for the energy, assuring her he'll give it his all. But she stops and asks when he plans to officially register for the challenge to make the fight happen. With a weak smile, he says that stalling won't give him any advantage and tells her he's going to register right now. Caught by surprise, the girl shouts, "What?" startled by her partner's insane rush as he's already leaving the cafe. In the late afternoon, our MC walks calmly through the school's stone courtyard, heading straight for the dueling gym. Looking at his phone, he checks the exact time, seeing it's already past 5 in the afternoon, and says the timing is perfect. He realizes the cluster guys tried everything to get his partner expelled, just to mess with his head before the practical test. Walking firmly, the boy decides he's going to level up so fast that his enemies won't even have time to try another sabotage from behind. With his phone in hand, he checks his opponent's profile and sees that the 10th-ranked student in Class A is the guy he'll be facing today. On the device's screen, the file for Taizei Kurumada appears, the opponent for the promotion round. The profile reveals that his rival is a heavy tank who uses steel armor and fights with raw defense, ignoring his own slow movements. Putting his phone away, the boy figures out that his enemy is basically a much stronger, upgraded version of that first guy with the stone armor he defeated on the court. With narrowed eyes, he realizes that any basic attack other than maximum penetration mode won't even tickle the tank's armor. Even knowing he's a tough opponent, the kid gives a confident smile, as he had already planned this fight from the second he learned his rival's name. Stepping firmly at the entrance, he guarantees he won't waste time here, and will settle this quickly. Entering the hall, he comes face to face with the duel's referee, who is already waiting for him with his arms crossed at the arena door. Looking at the young man, the hero recalls from memory that according to school rules, only the 2 combatants are allowed to enter that private testing room. Seeing the newcomer approach, the referee confirms that access is restricted and only the duelists can step into the arena from here on. The referee gives a fake bow and informs our MC that it's precisely because of this privacy rule that he's there to ensure the plan goes smoothly. With an ironic smile, our MC says he's finally figured out their game. R has crossed, the rival smiles, saying the boy works way too fast. In fact, the one standing in the arena is Akira Oshima, the number 7 ranked student in the school. With a lot of mockery, the preppy kid reveals that he just became the 10th ranked student on purpose exactly 10 minutes ago. Facing the hero, he asks if the plan was to challenge a weakling, and now he has to face him instead. Realizing the trick, the boy figures out that the cluster used loopholes in the promotion rules to switch the opponent at the last second. Facing the famous Magic Bullet Exterminator, the MC knows that King Jinnyo is desperate to destroy him for good. With his hands open, the rival says it's not bad luck, but an insurmountable wall blocking his promotion. Curious, the preppy kid asks why he simply refused the cluster's invitation, knowing this would happen. With fixed gaze, the opponent wants to know what's so bad about this elite union. Thoughtfully, the rival admits he doesn't think the organization is the most honest, but he swears their power is too tempting to ignore. Seriously, our boy just listens as his rival argues that having protection from the big shots is the best path. With a sharp look, the MC gives a sarcastic smile, saying their values are quite different. Straight to the point, he throws it in his face that the answer is very obvious. With his arm raised, the young man guarantees that his true dream would never be achieved by crawling among a corrupt group of cowards. To the MC, the cluster only serves to guarantee average grades for a bunch of incompetents to barely pass. With a clenched fist, the kid says he needs impeccable grades to break the school's prejudice. Focused on his goal, he states there's no advantage in licking the boots of the elite to achieve his dream of spreading tuning throughout the world. A bit lost, the rival scratches his head, admitting he doesn't understand why someone would risk their life for such a heretical dream. Not caring, our hero retorts that he's not asking for anyone's understanding. Instantly, the arena's blue lights turn on, and the big screen announces the start of the promotion match. Adjusting his collar, the preppy kid confesses he hates risks and just wants to live a quiet life with good results. With narrowed eyes, he warns that whatever happens in the fight is a consequence of the MC's choice, so he shouldn't hold a grudge. With a smirk, our hero guarantees there will be no grudge, because the only one walking out victorious is him. In the blink of an eye, the starting signal echoes, and the brawl finally begins in the closed arena. Without giving his enemy time to breathe, the boy extends his hand and unleashes a machine gun of rapid magic bullets. But the spells explode mid-air, colliding with a wall of glowing green hexagons. From behind the barrier, the preppy kid asks if the MC really thought he'd leave his defense vulnerable right at the start. Proudly, the rival claims that no low-level magic bullet can pierce his defense, which is what earned him the Exterminator fame. With his finger pointed, our hero gives a confident smile and warns that now his rival will see reality up close. With a cold expression, the preppy kid asks once more for the boy not to hold any grudges over the beating. In the empty gym, the fight unfolds under the watchful eyes of a few elite witnesses in the stands. Sitting on the bench, the purple-haired partner watches the duel, wringing her hands in anxiety for her partner. In the shadows, the gossiping audience is surprised to see two Class A legends showing up just to watch the newcomer. Leaning against the railing, the blue-haired genius and the president with glasses watch the combat in silence. With a friendly smile, the blonde kid with glasses asks if this is the first time the queen has shown so much interest in someone else's fight. With her back turned, the girl states without emotion that she has no special reason to be there today. With a smirk, the blonde adjusts his glasses, pretending to believe her excuse. Down in the arena, our boy figures he needs to understand how to overcome his rival's impenetrable barrier. With his arms crossed, the president comments that he wants to see how someone who only uses magic bullets will deal with a mage's nightmare. In front of the rival, the green shield glows brightly in its activated automatic defense mode. Eyeing the barrier, the kid admits that a skill that creates automatic barriers is pretty broken, but not perfect. In a quick move, the boy fires a fragmented shot to surround the enemy from all sides. Effortlessly, the shield expands to level 3, blocking every single blue projectile at once. With a smirk, the rival decides to go on the offensive and summons a glowing green level 3 magic revolver. With the energy weapon pointed, the preppy kid arrogantly announces that now it's his turn to attack. Quick as a flash, RMC creates a round blue energy shield to protect himself from the rapid shots. With his defense angled, the boy realizes that a head-on clash with a level 3 weapon is not going to end well. Fists. The kid makes a mad dash toward his rival to close the distance. From the stands, the purple-haired partner cheers, yelling that he's managing to advance even under heavy fire. In the middle of his run, the boy fires a concentrated blue shot in penetration mode right at the green barrier. With a brutal impact, the collision generates an explosion of green and blue energy that cracks the defense for a second. Sweating, the rival feels the absurd force of the magic punch and reinforces his barrier to its maximum level 3. With sparks flying, the spells collide heavily as the piercing shot tries to break through the preppy kid's geometric wall. Dropped, the purple-haired partner can hardly believe the amount of damage the MC is causing. After the initial shock, the rival gives an arrogant smile, asking if the kid really thought he'd get past the shield so easily. Confidently, he praises the bullet's power but swears that now he'll make sure the boy never gets close to him again. In a backward leap, our hero shoots using ricochet mode to make the bullets bounce off the wall and come from behind. Without moving, the rival easily dodges his head, finding the slow trajectory of the bullets a complete joke. Flying straight, the blue projectiles cut through the air without hitting any target. Watching the ricochet tactic, the elite audience finds it amusing, but the blue-haired genius instantly figures out the MC's plan. With full force, the shot hits the automatic barrier again, being deflected without leaving a scratch on the enemy. Without showing frustration, our boy observes the scene and keeps a straight face, planning his next move. In a mocking tone, The rival comments that he's already seen this stun of changing the bullet's path in the duel against the number one. With his arms open, the preppy kid boasts that his automatic defense protects his body even from blows he can't see in time to dodge. With a disdainful laugh, he guarantees that surprise attacks are 100% useless against his perfect barrier. Ignoring the chatter, the MC throws both hands forward, charging blue energy at both his fingertips simultaneously. With a storm of magic bullets, the attack explodes on the level 3 barrier, creating a dense smoke that covers the arena. To the preppy kid's despair, his geometric shield shatters like glass, sending glowing green fragments into the air. Standing on her chair, the purple-haired partner cheers loudly, yelling that he managed to break through the rival's invincible defense. Wasting no time, our hero seizes the opportunity and fires another shot straight at his opponent's chest without mercy. Caught completely by surprise, the rival feels a chill down his spine as he sees his end approaching. But with a smirk, the preppy kid reveals he has a passive magic resistance skill that cuts ability damage in half. With his chest singed, the guy dusts himself off and warns that the MC's spells will never cause real damage to him because of this broken combo. With a villainous laugh, the opponent throws it in the newcomer's face that even if he breaks the green shield, he will never win this promotion duel. Caught off guard, the purple-haired partner whispers that it's impossible for the enemy to have tanked that hit. Looking at the ground, the rival confesses he never imagined facing such a strong mage using only the basic magic bullet. Analyzing his opponent, the preppy kid realizes that if the MC had at least one more skill besides the bullet, he would have lost badly. With his weapon glowing, he gives a smug smile, saying that by keeping his distance, his victory is guaranteed. Focused on the fight, our hero knows he can't let up and starts rushing forward. Maintaining control, the rival throws it in his face that he'll win through exhaustion, shooting from a distance without letting the boy get close. Not letting his guard down, the preppy kid aims calmly, determined to end the fight without any risk of losing. Gritting his teeth, our MC creates blue barriers to withstand the opponent's shower of bullets. In the crowd, the girl despairs, seeing her partner being pushed back by the pressure from the exterminator. Clenching her hands tightly, she cheers with all her soul for our hero not to lose this promotion duel. In the middle of the smoke, the boy realizes his rival is using a strong barrier just to keep him from getting close. Confident in his victory, the rival thinks that if the newcomer were a proud mage, he would have already freaked out fighting someone on the same level. Sweating, the MC knows that if he continues at this pace of attrition, he'll end up passing out from exhaustion and needs to act fast. With a malicious smile, the kid decides it's the perfect time to unleash his last ace up his sleeve to break his defense. Glowing blue, the young man makes the magic energy swirl around his body, preparing a completely bizarre attack. Activating his secret tuning, our hero molds the magic and yells, "Invisible style," in front of his opponent. Utterly confused, the rival's eyes widen, wondering what the heck kind of ability this is. Concentrating the energy at his fingertip, the boy fires and the bullet simply vanishes into thin air. Shocked, the preppy kid looks for the shot and panics when he sees the magic has truly disappeared from his field of vision. Out of the absolute blue, the rival is hit by a blue explosion right in the face and lets out a cry of pain. In the stands, the elite students shouting confusion, wanting to know how the invisible shot hit the target. With a sarcastic smile, our MC confirms that it's his invisible style. Whispering, the crowd can't believe he managed to fire a magic bullet that is literally invisible to the naked eye. Wiping his face, the rival prepares for the next attack, knowing the danger is coming again. Even without being able to see the shot, the preppy kid trusts his automatic barrier to block the attack's trajectory. But the spell explodes in his face again, sending the villain flying backward. Desperate, the rival screams, wanting to know why his automatic barrier failed to stop the magic. Looking at his own untouched shield, the preppy kid realizes the attack didn't break the defense but passed right through it. Sweating, the villain swallows hard as he realizes the absurdity that the newcomer's invisible bullet simply ignores magical barriers. Falling backward to the ground, the opponent squirms, unable to understand what kind of monster he's facing. Thrown onto the arena floor, the preppy kid tries to get up, complaining that his automatic defense failed miserably against the bullets. Pointing his finger with the most mocking expression, our MC prepares to deliver the finishing blow. Walking slowly, he stops in front of his rival and throws it in his face that the talk of exterminating magic bullets was a complete lie. With a smirk, the kid makes fun of the magic bullet exterminator. Title the guy was flaunting. Touching his finger to his opponent's forehead, the boy asks if he really thinks he can raise a shield at such a short distance. To crush his ego, he warns that not even the rival's magic resistance skill will save him from a maximum penetration shot with new protection. Without giving him time to cry, the boy activates penetration mode and unleashes a blue magical discharge at point-blank range. With the colossal impact, the villain goes flying, breaking the arena floor and passing out for good. Stretched out on the ground with his eyes rolled back, the preppy kid is completely knocked out and powerless. Instantly, the referee raises his hand and announces Kazuki Shindo as the great winner and the new 10th ranked student of Class A. In the stands, the elite audience goes into a full-blown panic, unable to believe that the king of magic bullets was defeated by a former D-class student. With a defeated look, the former 10th ranked student lies on the ground, accepting his total humiliation. Seriously, our hero thinks he couldn't afford to lose there and needed to secure the top spot. Adjusting his glasses, the student council president wonders if making a magic bullet invisible is physically possible. With an intrigued smile, the elite blonde confesses he found the newcomer's idea extremely brilliant. Thoughtfully, the blonde from the council snaps his fingers, concluding that what the kid used was a very clever trick. Beside him, the blue-haired queen focuses her cold eyes on the MC, knowing the answer is something else. Speaking seriously, she explains to the president that if they were just ordinary invisible bullets, the rival's automatic defense would have activated anyway. After all, the automatic barrier protects against any attack that enters its range, regardless of whether the user can see it or not. With a finger on his chin, the president realizes that the MC's shots didn't pierce the green shield but rather went under it through a loophole in the trajectory. Satisfied with the show, the queen gets up from the stands, announcing that the duel is over and she's leaving. Straightening his suit, the blonde agrees that he also needs to get back to his duties on the student council. Glancing sideways at the arena, she comments that starting tomorrow, the newcomer will officially be their new classmate in Class A. With a sadistic smile, the president says he's looking forward to seeing how the boy will handle himself fighting in the true snake pit of Class A. The next day the scene changes, showing the enormous student dormitory building of Tokunat Academy. Super cheerful, the purple-haired partner appears, congratulating our MC on his first official day in the elite class. Wearing the new uniform with the elite red tie, the boy walks calmly down the hall. With an awkward smile, the kid asks if she really thinks the fancy clothes suit him. Smiling, the girl swears that she's the one who should be thankful for managing to move up in life thanks to his training. Humbly, the young man confesses that if she hadn't been there to help, he never would have climbed the school's classes so easily. Waving her hands blushing, she retorts that she's the one who owes him everything. In her memory, the image of the day the boy extended his hand, saving her from the bottom of the pit in the forest, flashes by. Very happy, she promises that even though they're in separate classes now, she'll always be cheering for his success. With a warm look, our hero smiles back and thanks his friend for her sincere support. But switching to a serious tone, the boy warns her to be careful, because now that he's moved up to Class A, the cluster might try to target her for revenge. A bit awkwardly, she thanks her partner for his concern with a cute smile. Rubbing the back of her neck, she assures him she'll be fine and promises to do her best on her own from now on. Focused, the young man says that from now on, he also wants to test his own limits against the school's true elite. Beating her chest with pride, the purple-haired girl swears she wants to graduate from that academy with her head held high. At the door, he says goodbye, telling both of them to give it their all in this new stage of school. Shaking hands in a firm pact of friendship, the two seal the deal with a smile. Alone in the hallway, the young man walks toward his new classroom with his hands in his pockets. Stopping in front of the door, he focuses on the golden plaque that reads, Class A, feeling the weight of his achievement. In his mind, he remembers that in his first life, he never even got close to stepping foot in that prestigious place. Opening the door, our MC comes face to face with King Jinryo lean against the wall with his arms crossed, giving an arrogant yo, with a challenging smile on his face. With a cynical smile, King Neo announces that this is the true special honors class of Class A. In a mocking tone, the redhead comments that the newcomer's promotion timing was too perfect, while the MC wants to know what he means by that. Without looking away, the villain drops the bizarre news, revealing that tomorrow, the entire Class A will undergo a special exam. Face to face, the redhead explains that the test is the famous selection of official representatives for Tokunata Academy. Without showing fear, our MC figures it all out and celebrates finally having the chance for a direct and clean confrontation against the top of the school. With an insane, psychopathic expression, King Neo Jin cracks a wide smile, promising he'll make sure to crush the kid with his own hands.